Hello everyone, welcome to my thesis presentation. My thesis uses the idea of exponential accumulation as a generative design process to both critique exponential accumulation and use it as a tool for making. My areas are technology, data, capital, carbon, and culture. My methods are feedback loops and DIY. My metrics are to demonstrate that exponential accumulation can be used as a design process and to critique the systems where exponential accumulation is occurring in harmful ways. So to get on the same page as to how I'm using the term exponential accumulation, it's quite simple. Accumulation means things adding together. Exponential means to increase at an increasing rate. So together you have things adding together at increasing rates. Apply this to a system with loose constraints or none at all, and the results are quite dramatic. This is what I've been interested in exploring in my thesis, and it's both the concept I'm critiquing and the process I'm using to do so. So the only other kind of vocabulary for this review is this term positive feedback, which is a similar way to describe exponential accumulation, not the same though. It describes any system which over time increases not only in output but also in input. So this is an example of that. The number of cattle running causes panic, and that panic causes more cattle to run, in turn causing more panic. Of course, this is limited by the size of the herd, but I'm interested in where there aren't such strict constraints. I think when exponential accumulation and feedbacks are pushed to extremes, they have the ability to recontextualize the parameters operand, and that's what's scared me most about this. So, but a little of how I got to now. I started in this program in industrial design. I had to do a futures project where I learned of some aggressive predictions coming in the future. I was researching AI, biotech, robotics, and other future fields. I was alarmed by the role that design played in these fields. I saw it as instrumental. I also saw a link between the underlying theories in these fields were each attempting to optimize feedback for the accumulation of information, processing power, or development. So I wanted to get my hands in on this, and I wanted to know how to generate exponential accumulation. What does it look like? How do I have or not have control over it? So I used a machine learning image generator to try to create a sandwich. This uses feedback between two models to try to determine the validity of the information being produced. This back and forth can, under the correct constraints, create very realistic imagery. In this case, I didn't have enough images of sandwiches, but was still interested to see how it aesthetically played out. This was another image generator feedback loop where I took the subsequent image that was outputted and put it back into the model and kept running it over and over again. I tried to do that in a similar way here, but was with more success. I had access to two machine learning models, one that takes images and writes a blurb about it, one that takes a blurb of text and makes an image out of it. And I fed these back and forth until to experiment with the feedback. The initial image was an image of a sandwich. So I try to do these feedback experiments in accumulation in less or in more constrained ways, and you can see there's a much difference in effect. And then I tried to put that back into a computer to get the results from there as well. So I landed on experimenting with the aesthetics of feedback loops, and was looking for more ways to do that. And in my thesis year, I was experimenting a lot with dongles, and I accidentally stumbled upon an early 80s video art technique that uses a webcam to create feedback. It's the easiest and most compelling expression of communication I have found to date. It essentially is a computer screen looking at itself. The external web camera is pointing at the screen that it's displaying. There tries to be two images of the same image at once, and this isn't possible. So there is a doubling occurring on the screen, and this creates patterns and is a literal depiction of exponential accumulation. So these are some examples of that. Okay, so then I wanted to try to present this work in a way that was true to the process. So I started thinking about ways to publish these exponential accumulation experiments. But briefly, I'll show you my experimental publishing timeline. So I read at CCA, I met Troy Juan Pablo Nagash. I applied to work at all the work study positions, and I went back from the Rizzo lab. I went to Seoul and saw Rizzo publishing by the truckload. Troy, Juan Pablo Nagash, and myself start a publishing Rizzo studio called Butthole Press. We buy our first Rizzo. We get our first publishing job. We buy our second Rizzo. I'm considering publishing as a career. And we buy our third Rizzo, but this time with Mike, Chloe, and Ashlyn from CCA as well. And here are the two timelines laid on top of each other. So I'll explain the last two projects here, which are the keystones of my thesis. A sandwich story holds the output from two machine learning models in feedback. The original was a sandwich, and so every purchase of the book, the idea is that it will run the model one more time, and then in theory this book can live on forever. The text for the images are at the end of the book. Of course the layout right now is a little in flux. I had the code written exactly how I wanted it, and everything was in order, but today something has changed. So please excuse the misorder of the text. It should be at the beginning, and then the blurb should be at the end, but that should be fixed very soon. This last project is a public access to web to print project, and it is a 30-minute TV show on public access channel 29 that will run weekly. It features a computer screen looking at itself. The computer is placed on top of my windowsill next to the couch, and it overlooks my neighborhood. The concept for the title comes from these anomalic occurrences that converge around my house. They're seemingly unexplainable. There is a extremely large population of skunks. There's a trash gyre that cyclones directly outside of our house. There is abandoned produce that mysteriously appears in many random places, seemingly. And there are just lots and lots of trucks and buses that go by. So what ends up happening every time the Nexus is activated is my dog, who's very interested in these noises, occurrences, and smells and what have you. So it charges from my bedroom to the front window and launches onto the couch, affecting the feedback that's occurring on the screen. Each week, the recording is then played on the screen of the next recording. So each week, the feedback continues. So does the Nexus. The show each week then is transferred to the web to print book, where it will continue to grow theoretically forever. Anyone looking to purchase the web to print book will be limited to 100 pages at one time. Adding them together can create a series. That is my thesis. Thank you so much for your time.